Hello and welcome to your Menstrual Magic introductory training. My name is Jamie and I am a holistic menstrual educator and a somatic coach. So I basically work with women helping them connect to their womb, their yoni, their menstrual cycle, and I'm also a fertility awareness method educator. So I share with women how to read their body signs so that they are able to manage their fertility naturally, i.e. to achieve or avoid conception, pregnancy. So I love to do this because this work is really powerful. It deepens the relationship with ourselves, with our experience living in our body. And this is also why I'm a somatic coach. So soma means body. I bring women into their body to experience their direct felt experience in this moment, in the now. So today, this training is about your hormones and about menstrual cycle awareness, an amazing practice that I really feel every menstruating woman should learn about. So we'll start by talking about why you should be aware of your menstrual cycle. And then I'll go over very basics 101 on what's happening in a menstruating woman's body each cycle or each month. And a typical hormonal cycle, you'll get to see what this looks like. And then a framework to share with you to support you with cultivating balanced hormones and overall health and well-being. Why should you know about your menstrual cycle? Big question. Many reasons, but before I go into this, I just want to clear up a misconception that I often hear when I'm speaking to women. So when I'm talking about the menstrual cycle, I'm not just talking about the event of bleeding. I'm talking about the whole cycle. So that looks like day one, which is the first day of your menstruation, the first day of your bleeding, all the way through to the end of your period, your pre-ovulatory phase, your ovulatory phase, your post-ovulatory phase, and your pre-menstruation phase. Okay, so that's your whole cycle basically until you start bleeding again, and then you're back on day one. And typically this is about 28 days for women. This is an average number, but anywhere between 24 and 36 days is a healthy menstruation cycle. So this is what I mean when we're saying about a cycle, okay? And why should you be aware of this? Firstly, I just want to cover up some symptoms or some experiences that I'm really seeing women commonly experiencing. So just listen to these and see if you're feeling any of these. Are you feeling frequently tired or exhausted, or like you're not living life to the full potential? Do you ever struggle with stress or anxiety, or even experience burnout or chronic illness? Do you feel like you're riding a roller coaster of emotions? One day you're feeling on top of the world, a couple of days later you're feeling really low energy, low emotions, maybe even feeling a sense of depression, going up and down throughout your month, feeling a sense of instability. What's your connection to your intuition? Can you hear your intuition and make decisions with clarity, or do you feel confused? PMS, premenstrual symptoms, include things like bloating, back pain, cramping in the womb, sore breasts, headaches, acne. Do you suffer from premenstrual syndrome? This is the time before you start bleeding. If you experience these symptoms, this is not normal. It's become normalized. Women believe that this is normal, but this experience is not something you have to put up with. If you're suffering from PMS, do you suffer from painful menstruation? Again, same, it doesn't need to be this way. Reproductive health issues such as PCOS or endometriosis, polycystic ovaries, and so forth. Lack of libido or sexual energy. Are you feeling a sense of unfulfillment in your romantic relationship? Do you feel disconnected from your womb or your yoni? Is there a lack of pleasure in your life? Maybe you're seeking that in other forms, like food or drink. Do you feel you seek love or validation, appreciation from others? Feelings of unworthiness or frustration, not feeling enough? Okay, these are some of the things that I am seeing women experience commonly. And if you're experiencing one or more of these, there's an answer to these experiences. And for you, it may be connecting to your menstrual cycle. So this cycle influences so much in our life, which I'm going to come on to show you now the science of why. So we have four main reproductive hormones. Okay, two produced in the pituitary gland in the brain, and that's FSH and LH. And then there's two more reproductive hormones developed in the ovaries, estrogen and progesterone. There's a dozen other reproductive hormones, but these are the four main hormones that we're going to be talking about today. So here is a chart from day 1 to day 28 on an average cycle. And as you can see, the hormones are fluctuating up and down. So you can look at day 1 and then fast forward to the light blue and the dark blue and then the gray colors later, and you see how every day there's a different hormone in play, more dominant in the system. And these hormones have an influence on our body. This is how, okay? So you can see here estrogen is this developing and forming and increasing kind of hormone physically, but also emotionally. It's a energizing, makes us feel happier and brighter, and everything is more optimistic in our outlook of life. And then progesterone is this more relaxing hormone on the physical level. It's a maintaining, it's a normalizing, it's a returning things back to balance kind of hormone. And from an emotional point of view, we're operating from more of the opposite of estrogen, right? We're kind of coming back to home, coming back to base. So it's the estrogen that rises that creates this happy, positive outlook. Then when we go to progesterone, we're kind of more not pessimistic or negative, but just able to see things a little more clearly, okay? We're going to come on to that more in the emotional phase shortly. But let's take a look at the uterus, for example. So estrogen is the hormone that's actually developing the blood in the womb and the tissue. So as estrogen rises, the womb forms the tissue and the blood and the endometrium lining. And then when you're in the progesterone phase, the uterus lining is held in place. And when progesterone drops, then menstruation occurs. If we look at the breast tissue, estrogen is proliferating, so you might find that you've got larger breasts around ovulation. Then when you come into your progesterone phase, the progesterone normalizes the size of the breast. For your blood sugar levels, estrogen elevates it, progesterone normalizes it. For your well-being, for your general well-being, estrogen promotes natural, healthy well-being. If you have an excess of estrogen, it can promote levels of anxiety. So this is a really important reason why we want to maintain the levels of our hormones as well in balance. So let's take a look at what this looks like. Okay, here again we have the same chart you've already seen. This is called an infradian rhythm. It's roughly a 28-day cycle, like the moon. Okay, so here is the beginning of the cycle, and you're working your way through to what looks like roughly day 28, the end of the cycle, like the moon. A man's clock, he operates on a 24-hour cycle, which is like our circadian rhythm, yeah? So this is day 1, and this is day 28. So you see how it's much more stable. Okay, this is a really important point to understand, because what I see is we have lived in a culture where we are operating to the masculine values. And it seems that we are, as a woman, trying to show up the same every day with the same food diet, with the same exercise routine, with the same task lists, with maybe the same social life. Friday nights I go out, Wednesdays I do this. Yeah. And that doesn't really work as a woman for most women. If it works for you, great. But what I'm seeing in the experience when we're trying to show up this way is we start to cultivate those experiences that I was talking about at the beginning of the presentation. So painful PMS or menstruation, mixed energy levels, feeling stressed and anxious. So this rhythm, I can give you some more examples now about how this is influencing you. It creates a 25% change in the way that your brain functions over the cycle. So at some points in the cycle, predictably, you are more intuitive. At other parts of the cycle, you're more creative. At other parts of the cycle, your mind is more analytical. Your metabolism speeds up and slows down across the month. So this means that at certain times you'll want more food, and at other times you'll need less food. Your resting cortisol levels also change throughout the cycle. So there are times when you need to prioritize yourself and your self-care more than other aspects of the cycle. So when you start to understand this, you see you're not the same person every week. So nothing else in your life needs to be either. I just want to make a quick point here that if a woman is on contraceptive, hormonal contraceptives, such as the pill or an IUD or any of the other hormonal contraceptives, then the woman will not be experiencing this fluctuation of hormones. What it actually does is block the feedback to the pituitary gland, so FSH isn't developed. And if that's not developed, then estrogen isn't being produced in the ovaries, LH isn't going to be triggered, and progesterone won't be developed, produced from the corpus luteum. So basically, you can see here at the top, this is what's happening in the ovaries. This is the follicle as it grows, develops, and ovulates and transforms. Whereas a woman that's on the pill, it's just flatlined here. So you're not going to be experiencing these fluctuations of hormones and getting the benefits of how our brain is altering and how our energy levels are altering. But I do recommend for women that if they want to start to connect to what I call this as the feminine rhythm, then to use the lunar, the moon, as the guide. So the new moon, when it's dark, that would be the beginning of the cycle, and ovulation would be when there's a full moon. Okay, so let's talk about the inner seasons. This is an amazing framework that basically helps women connect to this cycle that we're talking about. So just like the external world has the seasons of winter, spring, summer, and autumn, we can connect to this idea of moving through the seasons inside. So what is going on in here is also reflected as what's going on outside. So I love this. It's a beautiful way of connecting to nature and relating to it, because we've all experienced, I assume most of us have experienced all 4 seasons in our life. So winter is, and also here we have some suggested days. So winter, it's saying roughly 27 to day 5, spring, day 6 to day 11, summer, day 12 to 19, autumn, day 20 to 26. Now, your experience trumps what I'm suggesting here. These are just a guide, and that's what all of this is. It's a guide, okay? So let's dive into a very high-level overview of these seasons and how it relates to your cycle. So here we have inner winter, menstruation. You can see down here that the hormones are low, and that's what's creating the what's creating the endometrium lining to release. You see the woman here is menstruating. And the hormones are low, right? So what this means is that we're generally feeling a lot more withdrawn. We're feeling introverted. We're feeling like we want to be at home, we want to be cozy. What we're going through can be seen as energetically as a death and rebirth. We're actually releasing all of the tissue and the cellular memory that was formed over the last cycle. It's a time for releasing physically, but also energetically, letting go of what no longer served us in that last cycle. And really recommend taking as much rest as you can, particularly during the first or second day, and detaching from the outside world as much as possible, limiting your social interactions. There's a lot of benefits to doing this. It's like a coming home each cycle, and it becomes something that you start to look forward to if you don't already. So prioritizing your self-care, prioritizing eating warming, nourishing foods, and this is an amazing time to listen. So your intuition is switched on right now. Your awareness is so within, it's the most within of your awareness of the whole cycle. So take advantage of this to do things that are more introverted, like maybe playing with art or creating or meditating, yoga nidra, whatever it is that is within your practices. This is the time to cultivate this awareness and to ask for answers to questions that maybe you're pondering on. Okay, spring, roughly day 6 to 11. So here you can see that the follicle has started to develop in the ovaries and estrogen is starting to rise. Now, estrogen is this exciting, happy, optimistic hormone. We're not at its peak yet, so it's just starting to rise slowly. And this brings a level of playfulness, a level of curiosity. When you think about spring, in the external season, you're coming out of your hibernation slowly. There's that freshness in the air. You're feeling maybe, I don't know how you're feeling. I feel really sweet and playful and I just want to play. Like I want to experience the outside world again. But I'm also feeling a bit vulnerable, right? So I don't want to launch straight out into full force. I'm not Superwoman. That's the next phase. So connecting to creativity, connecting to anything you want to start new in this phase is amazing. So it's great for creating new habits or starting a new project because you've got that enthusiasm within. So great time to plan for the month ahead, to do some, from a work perspective, to manage your workflow for the next cycle, project management, strategies, etc. And also a great time to dream without restriction. So without being practical, just think about what you want in life. Then we're moving into the summer phase, roughly day 12 to 19. Here you see that the estrogen levels are reaching their peak level, and that's what creates the luteinizing hormone to spike, and then ovulation occurs. So around this level, the energy levels are much higher. I love to call it the Superwoman phase. A great time for self-expression, for being outside, for being social. Your confidence levels are high. Great time to ask for what you want and need from people because you're very magnetic. Communication skills are at their best throughout this time. And naturally, the libido is at its highest, yeah? So take advantage of this and enjoy this phase. This is the phase where you get to just kind of let go and just be. Then you're moving into autumn, so day 20 to 26 roughly. And you see that after ovulation has occurred, estrogen falls away, and then progesterone, this grey line here, rises as it's produced in the ovaries by this corpus luteum. So the progesterone rises, and this is the slowing down hormone. This is the relaxing hormone. This is the maintaining hormone. So if you've ever wondered why one day you're feeling great and then a couple of days later you're not, you're feeling tired or you're feeling moody or frustrated or just really low and heavy, this could be why this is a crossover day here, where the hormones, which have a different influence on you, are interchanging, right? So be really gentle with yourself in this phase. So I love to call this phase the moment of truth. You might see your inner critic show up and question what you're doing and why you're doing it and giving you a hard time. So it's an amazing time to build a relationship with your inner critic, like a healthy relationship. And it's also a great time to see what is bothering you, because that beautiful estrogen shiny hormone has now gone, and it's easier to see more clearly and more truthfully, because again, our awareness is drawing back inwards to us. So you may find yourself being more assertive, more honest, more critical, and using this energy to really get through things, feeling this, connecting to this sense of productivity, to complete things and to wrap things up. Naturally, you may find yourself cleaning the house, sorting things out, getting things off your to-do list. And in particular, a couple of days before the end of the cycle, you might notice that you're trying to prepare yourself, your space for resting in your menstruation, in your winter. Also, we can tend to be more sensitive at this time. We can be more sensitive to smells or sounds, surroundings, people. So really encourage you to take that time to slow things down and to look after yourself, to increase your self-care. Okay, that was a really, really high level overview of the seasonal framework. And I've already suggested some reasons why you might want to tap into this because of cultivating healthy, balanced reproductive hormones. Because when you're working with this energy flow, rather than resisting it and trying to show up every day as the same, when you start to flow with these hormones, i.e. your natural body's rhythm, everything becomes easier and our nervous system relaxes, which allows us to reduce our stress levels, access more joy and pleasure in our bodies, but also in the way that we relate to life. It's a great way of feeling more consistent, right? Rather than crashing when we're not listening to our body and we're resisting. Then when we're, for example, if we're bleeding in our menstruation and we're still trying to go at the same 90 to 100%, this is when we start to experience pain. It's the way that our body is telling us to slow down. It doesn't have a voice, so it gives us this experience, this pain, which you could see as pay attention inside now, yeah? You get to know yourself on a much deeper level. When you understand these hormones and you understand these seasons and you understand how to change, how to alter the way that you interact with yourself, the way you interact with people, the way you eat, the way you exercise, the way you plan your workflow, the way you decide to, when you decide to connect with certain people, your family, for example, there's so much magic in this space. So yeah, I encourage you to contemplate what you are taking away from this training, and maybe, yeah, 3 takeaways. And if there's something that you think you'd like to explore deeper, then you can connect with me. So my my website address is just here, jamielauren.coach, and I run a 10-week program on this. It's called Menstrual Magic. You can find all the details out on the website. Thank you so much for watching.